I'm going to take my kayak down here. So you say you've kayaked from here?
Yeah, it's great put in.
Yeah.
And you can kayak over to Longfield or out to.
Yeah.
They came
Yes.
down through here, and
Yeah.
Helen, so this is the family farm, purchased in around 1905. Grace's father passes away. She builds the house in Oak Park, the bigger home, and then she purchases this. I've seen the check. She wrote the check. It was her money. And they purchased at least 40 acres. I always thought maybe it kind of a little bit went this way, but I've seen the maps now. It's all this section over here, and it was called Little Red Top, where the cottage was. This was pretty much all clear cut at that time, and so her house was at the top of this beautiful vista, which is where the cottage still is. A friend of mine, Steve Verostek, owns that property now. The cottage was almost lost to the elements. Then he bought the property. It was never supposed to be sold, and then when you're talking about $1,900,000. $1,290,000 or something. That's what that property sold for. That's just a portion. So people were motivated, and we almost lost the cottage that year. Then he wasn't sure if he was going to keep it, and then one day the bulldozers almost knocked it down accidentally. And then he was sitting there. He just got back from a trip, and he said he'd always been a Hemingway fan. Grew up around the lake, and he said I was sitting on the front porch that day and said there's no way I can tear this down. And cost per foot, I think he said he spent like double to bring Grace Cottage back just exactly the way it was. It's very rustic, very minimalistic on the inside. Grace was over here on her own a lot of the times, most of the time, especially after Clarence dies in 28. And she was really, I mean, there's nobody here. She's the only person on this side of the lake when the summer people are gone. So she liked to sleep upstairs and pull the stairwell up and secure it under her bed. No one's getting to Grace that night when she was sleeping. So, but again, here's this woman that's more resilient than anybody would have expected. She writes a letter. She writes a letter saying the first 8 or 9 summers or so were great up on the lake, but the thought of being stuck on that lake with no view and nothing to look at except the trees and the lake just brings a sob to my heart. And she said, I don't want to go up there anymore. And this Windermere Cottage was listed in the Chicago newspapers for sale. What would have happened differently if Hemingway's family would have sold that cottage when he was 11 years old, and he never wound up over on this side of the lake? Because to me, this is where the magic happened. He comes over here, and it's that sense of freedom between here and Horton Bay, and then those connections to Paris come from Bill and Kate Smith. That's how he meets Sherman Anderson. That's how he winds up in Paris with letters to Gertrude and Sylvia Beach. So without that, would he have become a great writer?
Wow.
Probably. Would he have been Hemingway? Would he have been a sports writer like Bill? Who knows what would have happened if that cottage would have gone for sale? And it was, I think it was 1909 or 10. But yeah, so he's over here. He's in charge of the farm. It was a working farm. We have pictures of him actually leaning on shovels. There's one of him lifting, one picture of him lifting a load of hay. And I think that's the only picture and the last picture we'll ever see of him doing physical labor. Clarence loved doing physical labor. Hemingway, not so much. So, but yeah, he and Hadley, or Helen, wind up right here. Kateski's car, they can hear it going back over the hill. And then they load up, which this is practical too. This is something that's absolute. Clarence had hidden the canoe here. Well, the canoe's right there, but the oars are hidden. You can't steal a canoe without oars. So they were hidden behind one of the I think he said it was the ice house. So that's something very practical. He loved to end the day over here. So when he was 13 or 14 years old, he's over here more than he's at the cottage. He's camping over here. He's set up. He's in charge of the farm. Who knows how much time he's actually spending in Horton Bay at that time. But he loved to start the day off with a swim and then end the day with a swim. And again, we had a girl on one of the tours. It's in the middle of October. It was a beautiful day, but this lake's not so deep. It's 100 feet deep right here, but not everywhere. So it cools off pretty quick. And this girl, right in front of everybody, she's stripped down, and not all the way down, but she's out there. And I've seen so many people take that baptismal jump into the lake. And then the foot of the lake, the foot's all the way down there too. And then Windermere would be straight off that dock, right across. Of course, Clarence had this spectacular eyesight, and it's written in quite a few of the documentaries or the biographies that Grace would come over here, and when she wanted to come home, she would wave a white flag, and Clarence would send somebody over. In later years, my friend Jim Sanford, he remembers rowing Grace back and forth several times. That was the thing. She would signal over, and they'd come and get her and take her over. But then she also writes a letter to Hemingway saying, this cottage has been yours since 28. Why is it you don't come back here? I thought you and your three kids would come up here. I thought you would have the same experiences with your children. And she said, I went over to this one saddens me quite a bit because She goes, I went over and looked at the cottage today. The roof's falling in. The mice have eaten holes. And there's rat. It was in bad shape. The kids call it the haunted house on the lake, and they go there to do what kids do. But then when Ernie Mainland and Sonny moved back into the cottage, it took a lot of cleaning. He said you could tell animals had lived there for the better. But Hemingway just said it's the clearest part of my memory. I don't want to go back there. I wanted to remember it the way it was, that the way it was at that time.
Would you be to the left or the right of the white one?
So it's kind of like right in that little cove. So this is Murphy's Point over here, which is where Jim and Marion Sanford have their cottage. That was the Loomis cottage. That's where the cottage was that got him kicked out of the house that year. And there was nothing in between those cottages, so it's almost directly straight off that dock. Okay. But the trees have grown up. You know, it's set up just enough into the woods.
Okay, yeah, it's
You can see it from if you take a boat, you can see it. And this is a great access point for kayaking. So, because you can easily get in, pull your vehicle up, but the dock make it super easy. So we kayaked and could see Grace's cottage, a little bit of it, because it's tucked back in there. And then we kayaked straight across and kayaked over in front of Windermere and then came back.
And when Ernie was still alive, if he would have pulled up out in front and said, "Where's Windermere?" he would have said, "It's about a mile down this way." And then this is all Camp Michigania. So and when we're driving back, I'm so sorry about all the dust, but when you look at that stretch over here, to me, that's exactly the way it would have been in Hemingway's time. The trees are about the right height, just those rolling meadows that have all been preserved, and for no reason other than happenstance. And then when Dwight Sumner, who was part of the Sumner family, when he passed away, his 80 acres, Camp Michigania acquired all of that too. So this land's probably going to stay looking quite like it has for a long time. There's going to be a McMansion right here. This was just purchased, but
This is the second largest tract of land on the lake, independently owned. There's a stretch just over here that we saw yesterday that the state of Michigan owns.
you can camp over in that one section there. I don't know how to get there, but
We
there's
did.
a place you can camp over.
We were not told that yesterday.
There is some rustic camping. I've tried to find it off Camp Daggett. I just never been able to find it. There is a spot back there, but there's so few public accesses for this being a public lake.
Yeah.
It's Walloon.
I think there's like 3 or 4. So if somebody builds a big mansion here, what is that going to do to this access?
This is always going to be this is public property.
Okay.
But he's just going to be right next to.
They're going to not be very happy with all the traffic coming in and out.
The fence has already come down. This used to have a big fence here.
Or you could see the pink line,
Yeah.
the property line.
So this was called Longfield Farm, and then she called the house Little Red Top because all the sumac that was up there was red to the eye. I'm colorblind, so I don't know, but so now it's Longfield Farm Estates.
And Longfield Farm Trail, which is private, so don't go up there.
So I saw we crossed Camp Daggett Road. Is Camp Daggett on this lake?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Is it that
Down this way, I believe. Yep.
Okay.
I've never been to Camp Daggett. Michigania, we were lucky enough to have one conference here, and then they stopped opening it up to the not public, but for anybody other than.
Rotary Youth Exchange used to do stuff at Camp Daggett.
Yeah,
So I was
yeah.
there for that. And somebody,
Yeah, Camp Daggett has some really cool things all summer long.
yeah. Long way to go on honeymoon night, isn't it?
Yeah, sure is.
Especially when you're sick.